not allowed and don't sleep in my own bed anymore. I uniform to show you who I am. Boring, but it's so easy. Same faces all of the time. And my girl on the brain, I'm in dire need of change, but I'll miss it all the same. Give me the news and an honest page, a seasoned book and a set of wheels, a flash of your eye from across the party, a quiet life, an open door. Strange place, familiar faces, old furniture, brings it all back. The new makes me curious, and I might miss the routine, but I'd replace it with that scene in front of me any day. I'm amazed at the ways it's gonna change. Give me the news and an honest page, a seasoned book and a set of wheels, a flash of your eye from across the party, a quiet life, an open door.
We say that it's not what you've done, it's what you can become. We use arts to help facilitate that road to change.
Like a dream from a wishing well, my trawler eyes take everything in wild.
So everything that we do is about exploring ways that we can improve situations for the participants in the groups that we work with and help them achieve more positive outcomes.
A break from the sadness, disconnection from madness. I leap from the noise, relief in the shadows, crying out for more, like a hungry child full of life, a mishandled smiles, blown away like the flame of a candle out again, deafened by silence, fragile and lonesome again. A break from the sadness, disconnection from madness. I leap from the noise, relief in the shadows. There's a hush to destroy. I leap from the noise.
Hi folks, thanks for joining us. So my name is Libby MacArthur and I directed the stage play IncludED that was written by Mark McNichol and produced by the Creative Change Collective. So for those of you who don't know the Creative Change Collective, formerly Street Cones, we're a charity who use the arts and creativity for many different things, including achieving more positive outcomes and raising awareness around important themes. The stage play IncludED came from weekly sessions delivered by Mark and Jean's Bothy, Helensburgh, a community mental health and wellbeing hub. The play is fictional, but was inspired by the Enable Scotland origin story. The parents of children with learning disabilities who back in 1954 set up a charity that went on to become Enable Scotland. The play takes its name from the Enable Scotland IncludED campaign, which lists 22 key recommendations to help increase inclusion for pupils with learning disabilities. So in a moment, you will be shown a short behind-the-scenes film from a recent small tour of the play. This tour was made possible as a result of funding from Argyll and Bute Third Sector Interface. After the film, we will have a Q&A with any questions you have in the comments section wherever you are watching this, or by email direct to Mark, M-A-R-K, at ccc.scot. Mark at ccc.scot. The short film and Q&A will take around 60 to 90 minutes, so we should be done by 3 o'clock, 3:30 at the latest. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce some behind the scenes from the recent tour of the play IncludED.
IncludED was a fascinating project because the sessions that we ran at Jean's Bothy, the script that emerged from the sessions, basically the stage play took its name from the IncludED campaign, which Enable were running to promote inclusion of pupils with learning disabilities.
So this project was first started back in October 2019. We started it here in Jean's Bothy with some development sessions where members were given the chance to start with a blank sheet of paper and start to create characters with the support of Mark. Jean's Bothy has a number of members who have lived experience as they are parents with children who have additional support needs. And we found that through this whole project and being part of creating this script, that they had a lot of experience in the challenges that they found day to day in getting their children in, either into mainstream education, or if they were, the challenges of getting them to go to school every day, or being involved in things that meant that they couldn't take part in trips or sports days, or just being involved in what we would class as normal day-to-day life for school children. And it was really valuable for those parents who are our members to be part of that process of being able to share their own experience, but use it in a fictional way, so transfer it into fictional characters, but with their own experience added to that.
This was my school. This was his brother's school. How was I supposed to tell Jonathan he had to go to a different school? So they don't have the resources. That's wrong, right? It's an injustice.
So Jean's Bothy is an organisation which focuses on the community, mental health and well-being, and the great thing about the project was that it gave the participants from Jean's Bothy an opportunity to see a professional stage play developed from a blank page to a completed professional production, and at the same time Enable had the opportunity to use the stage play to raise awareness around about a very important campaign which relates to increasing inclusion of pupils with learning disabilities in mainstream education.
A full education is a basic human right. All children included in all activities.
My name is Jonathan Bygrave. I have lived experience of being bullied, and I'm disabled, and I have psychosis which people do not understand sometimes. I've lived experience all my life of being bullied for what I've got. Basically, I had a bad education at school. My name's Jonathan. The idea of Jonathan being in the play actually comes from my idea. It's changed my life forever. because I'm involved with something and it's all over the west of Scotland now.
Writing you tonight, and it's on play. I knew it was good. I've known Katrina for such a long time. I'm such a fan of Kate's Coffee and the work it does. But I probably didn't expect the reaction which I've had, it's very emotional, because I think what I've heard tonight from the play actually is what I've heard every day up and down the country for the 7 years that I've been teaching rec, from thousands of parents, from thousands of grandparents, from thousands of teachers who really care about what happens to kids, from thousands of individual people who support children and young people with learning disabilities. It just brought everything into the one place.
So after each performance, we had a Q&A, and the Q&As were very well attended by both lived experience and non-lived experience. The stage play was written as a standalone piece of theatre, so yes, it's an opportunity to raise awareness round about the campaign that the stage play took its name from. But the Q&As were excellent, because the feedback that we had was that the people in the audience who did not have lived experience benefited from the educational opportunity and getting insight into perhaps areas that they knew nothing about previously.
Hi, so Libby MacArthur directing Mark McNichol's IncludED. We're having so much fun. The two characters, Jane and Sally, are awesome, played by the rather brilliant Colin Guthrie and the brilliant Rachel Ogilvie, and it's going really well. The rehearsals are really cooking with gas. It's very, see the way you say justice, that's great, but it brings you together. Rachel's go, is there injustice? And then you look at her for support, and she's totally with you. Yeah?
For me, doing the play, it's more the confidence side of it, because I hadn't been well for a few years and my confidence was really low. But since doing that, doing the play, it's really made me feel a wee bit more included and positive.
I thought it was a remarkable performance. I thought that the acting was fantastic, the direction was first class, the writing was great. But above all of that, I thought that someone who doesn't have that lived experience like me learned so much from tonight. And my one wish for this production is that more people who do not have the lived experience come to see it and learn from it and have a greater understanding of what it is. Because it's one thing to play to an audience of people who know and understand and have been through it, but the bigger audience who haven't been through it have got to understand it. And my one hope is that more people get to see it.
The performance was fantastic. It was a really emotional show. I found it very, very powerful message. Superbly acted. I would encourage anyone to come along and see it. A great message. It's about people fighting for basic human rights that we all take for granted, and that fight goes on. So it really resonates. You could see in the audience how many people it really resonated with. It had a real impact, and I think it needs to be seen.
The collaboration with Enable has been really interesting for a charity like the Creative Change Collective. We're a relatively small organisation and have a specialism in how the arts engages with people. But this project's been interesting to work with a charity like Enable on the size and scale that Enable is, and to be involved in something that also has a connection with a broader social message, a campaign around inclusion. So it's been a development for us, and it's been exciting to be part of something much broader than the charity itself.
Gratitude to the main funder of the project, Argyll and Bute Third Sector Interface. Without them, the project would possibly not have happened. So big gratitude to Argyll and Bute Third Sector Interface.
Good stuff. So, okay, folks, so remember to submit any questions you have in the comments section wherever you're watching this, or by email direct to my colleague Mark at ccc.scot. So now let me introduce you to the lovely panel we've got here. Katrina Sayre, who you saw in the film, is a development manager with Enable at Jeans Bothy. Frank McKillop is head of policy at Enable. Hello, Katrina. Hello, Frank. Caroline Guthrie, you saw performing, is an actor from the play. And last but not least, Bernie Curry is a member of Jeans Bothy. So we have a question here. It's an interesting one. It's from Janice Cook, and she has emailed in and she's asking, what percentage of audiences were lived experience versus having no lived experience? Well, I doubt that any one of us on here could actually give you, Janice, a percentage per se, but I certainly think that we had a kind of feeling that it, you know, the perceived wisdom was that it might only be lived experience folk that would take an interest in. But I think, Katrina, it would be fair to say you were at most performances. I believe it'd be fair to say that we were quite surprised at A, the numbers, and B, the feedback from folk who were saying they'd learned a lot. Would you concur?
Yeah, no, there was definitely a mix. There was a higher percentage of those with lived experience from the stuff that we were getting from the Q&A, but yeah, we've had direct feedback from people saying that they had no idea, and the play really gave them such an insight into just how it is for people who are struggling like that every day. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah. I think, I mean, Caroline, I'm sure you would agree with me as well that, you know, we ourselves spoke about how much in the dark we were around the idea of the subtleties of it all, you know. I mean, you know, the line we see when Rachel says it's an injustice, you know, we're basically talking about the fact that there's just isn't the funding to allow parents to make good choices for each individual child. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it wasn't even that subtle for me. I thought either the kid was allowed to go to a normal school or went to a different school. But it never crossed my mind that once they went to a mainstream school, that anything would be different for them there. I thought if they were in mainstream school, they were the same as every other pupil. And that was an absolute revelation to me. And I think the problem is that because most of us who don't have lived experience don't know that, there isn't enough power behind the numbers of people trying to get that to change. So we all need to know about it. We all need to be outraged by it. And we all need to get behind changing it and getting the funding, finding the funding from somewhere, because they can always find funding when they need it for other things.
Ain't it the truth? Yeah, so Bernie, that must be music to your ears, yeah?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. You know, there's a lot of good causes out there, and you know, and a lot of them can't move forward because there's not funding. So, you know, really it'd be great if we just had a magic wand and we could wave and everybody could get the money they needed for everything, but unfortunately it's not like that.
Yeah.
You know.
Frank, in one of the performances, one of your colleagues said, "Oh, if only we had a play attached to every one of our campaigns." And we thought, would that be brilliant? But yeah. So how do you think that the play fared in terms of Janice's question about, you know, reaching the parts that other plays cannot reach?
Yeah, I think it is that issue with a lot of public policy things. There's an element of out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, the principle of mainstreaming in Scottish education has been in place, excuse me, for over 20 years. And I think there's sometimes a temptation in government and in Parliament to think we've got that in place now, it's done. When the reality on the ground for individuals, for pupils and for their families, for their parents, is very, very different. And I think it is the strength, the real power of theatre, the real power of a play like IncludED, is bringing that to the attention of a wider audience. You know, the sort of battles, the struggles that the characters in this play experience those are struggles that families and parents and grannies and grandpas and uncles and aunties all over Scotland are experiencing day in, day out, often with enormous frustration because they're sometimes not being listened to, they're not getting anywhere with it. You need to have the sort of passion that the characters in this play had, the determination to fight every day to get what their kids are entitled to. And many people who don't have that lived experience assume things are fine because Parliament passed a law. And I think it's that sort of discrepancy between what the law says and what life is like on the ground. It's where, charities like Enable, we're always fighting on behalf of those families every day. And I think something like this, a play like IncludED really brings that to the attention of a wider audience. And the more people realise actually just, passing a bit of legislation in Parliament doesn't magically solve a problem. There's an awful lot of hard work needs to be done around that, a lot of funding that needs to be put in, a lot of training for the teachers and everything. A play like this does wonders to raise awareness of that.
Well, I know I can safely speak on behalf of the creative team to say that to have brought in a piece of theatre that was very entertaining and folk fed back how much they laughed and enjoyed the actual story, but to hear people say, at last I've been heard. I mean, Caroline, I know that you, me and Rachel one night were kind of close to tears almost about the feedback that we got from one person in particular who was saying, singing me softly with his words. They were basically saying, I'm heard, I feel seen, I feel acknowledged, and it just absolutely, just makes your day. It makes you think we're doing exactly what we should be doing here at Creative Change Collective if that happens, And the feedback forms we handed out for anyone watching. We handed out feedback forms, and I was amazed at how many people took time to stop. Just about everyone I gave a form to stopped and got a pen and wrote how they felt about the piece. So that was fantastic. Well, Frank, this next question's at you. So it's from Big Norrie. I believe Big Norrie's a regular here on Twitter. So Big Norrie's asking, I had a look at the IncludED campaign recommendations made by Enable. How many have actually been implemented?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think the answer is there's probably 4 out of the 22 have been fully implemented to date. Now, given that the report was published about 4.5 years ago, that's slow progress, I think we can safely say. I think the biggest one, and it was that way for 20 years, there wasn't actually formal guidance on the duty to provide mainstream education in Scottish schools. Like I said, an Act of Parliament had been passed and then everyone forgot about it. So thankfully in 2018 we did get that official guidance published. So that was certainly the first step towards implementing the other 21 recommendations. But to date, there's probably a lot of these recommendations still really aren't in place. We still don't have that education for teachers, and I think that was probably a big thing, as Norrie will probably have seen from the report. I think one of the most striking parts of it was the number of teachers who engaged with that survey, who engaged with that research and told us, look, we want to do the best job we possibly can for all the kids in our care, but we've not been trained how to deal, with a kid with autism, a kid who might be stressed out in a particular environment, might be having a meltdown, just overstimulation, all these sort of things that we need to take into consideration to make the classroom inclusive. But if you've never taught somebody how to deal with that, and with all the other stresses and strains that teachers have every day trying to do a job that I wouldn't take, my wife's a teacher and I never envy it. On top of all that, you've never been taught how to deal with this sort of classroom situation. And the teachers were saying, we need to be trained in this. We haven't got that in place yet. We need to get to that place. It needs to just be an integral part of teacher training in this country. If we really believe in mainstream education, that the school should be inclusive of everybody. We don't want to send people off to different schools. We want our society to be inclusive. We want our schools to be inclusive. We need to make sure the staff have the training that they need. So there's a number of those recommendations that we made that we still haven't seen the progress we want to see. I think, as is always the case when there's a bit of a change in political leadership, there's always a chance to remind the new people in charge, whether it's a new First Minister or a new Education Secretary or whatever might be on the way in the next 6 weeks. It's always a chance to remind them, look, these are things that we've been talking to you about for a long time. Can you maybe have another look at them? And certainly rest assured that's something that we'll be doing with the new Education Secretary and the new First Minister at the end of next month.
Power to your elbow, Frank. Great question, Norrie, well done. Excuse me, I'm just going to have a wee drink. Another email then from Jackie Simpson. Jackie Simpson says, I'd like to hear more from Katrina and Bernie about what Jeans Bothy, it actually says who Jeans Bothy are and what they do. Yeah. So who are Jeans Bothy and what is it you actually do? She says, I live close to Helensburgh and so I would consider coming along to see what's happening there. Great, Jackie, delighted. So Katrina and Bernie, over to you. Katrina, will we start with you and then come to Bernie?
Yep, okay, yeah. So Jeans Bothy is a mental health and wellbeing hub. So we're in Helensburgh. I don't know where Jackie, which kind of part she lives near Helensburgh. We do cover Helensburgh and Lomond. It's one of these things of dependent on our funding kind of gives us these boundaries of where we can accept membership from. But if she lives in Helensburgh and Lomond, she'd be very welcome to come along and see us. We run a monthly programme, kind of Monday to Saturday. We run different activities and groups, all with a focus on improving your wellbeing. So it ranges from you can get involved in fitness, or there's creative stuff like creative writing or art groups, or knitting, sewing. You can basically learn anything really if you come along to Jeans Bothy. But there's also some other stuff that like practical stuff, like you're learning more woodwork skills and just engaging with other people. For people who are maybe they lack the kind of social skills, or maybe they're not getting to see other people. They've maybe just moved to an area. Maybe they're not working anymore. So Jeans Bothy is a great place to come along and just meet other people. And yeah, it's great fun. I'm sure Bernie will support me in that. That is good fun.
Meet other people is the key, isn't it? Bernie.
Yeah, well, I've been a member since 2019. I wasn't very well for a few years. And instead of looking at four walls, I decided to take the step and try to find out how I could join Jeans Bothy. And it was a big step for me at the time. And that was 2019. And then at the time, Mark had came with street cones then, and the play had started, or the idea of the play had started. So it's something I didn't think I would be involved in, the whole time. But as the weeks went on and everything, and then COVID hit us, so I thought, well, that's going to be the end of that. But it wasn't. We did it on Zoom, had our regular classes every week on Zoom. And I mean, it took about 3 years for everything to come together. And it's been really rewarding seeing the final stage play and how it was, the actresses were absolutely fabulous, and it was better than I expected it would actually be, but we thought we were never getting there because of the financial side of it, and it wasn't for the want of trying. But yeah, I mean, Jeans Bothy, it's did a lot for me, for my mental health especially, and my well-being. And there's so many activities there, so many lovely people that go, and you can just take your pick what you want to do. As Katrina said, I'm involved in a lot of things. I'm a rep as well, a rep for the Bothy, and I enjoy doing that. I take part in a lot of meetings. I do yoga. God, there's that many things I can't even think now that I'm on the spot. But I do a lot and take part in a lot of activities at the Bothy. But I really enjoy it, and it's a great place to be, and it's so welcoming. So, Jackie, don't be afraid to come along, because you'll be really well welcomed and everyone will make sure you are.
Thanks, Bernie. That's an invite and a half there, Jackie. You need to get yourself out and about and get along there, yeah. Can I vouch for the biscuit barrel? We do a mean coffee and some
There's always biscuits on offer and tea.
Yeah. And it's just, it's interesting. It's just that kind of, especially when there's a kind of impetus to right wrongs as well that's behind Jeans Bothy as well. There's that kind of thing of, actually there's a real belonging, I think, in terms of a vision, in terms of actually a vision for change and a better way to be. Brilliant stuff. Okay, we have from Twitter, we have Duncan Cullen. That's a good name, isn't it? Duncan Cullen. Duncan Cullen. He says, I'd love to see a stage play from blank page to performance. It would be fascinating. It'd be good to hear from Libby and Caroline how they got involved and how this project compares to other professional stage productions. That's a great question, Duncan. Yeah, the blank page too. And, you know, Bernie was sort of saying, you know, there's that kind of sense of, I think that's dead common. I'm sure you'll back me up, Caroline. You know, you never think you're going to arrive. You never think you're going to actually get there, you know. So, Caroline, yeah, you coming along and then the actual kind of us sitting there listening to folks' feedback and all that. How was that journey for you, Caroline?
Well, I got involved because I found out that Libby was auditioning, so I auditioned for it, not knowing really anything about it. Got the job, thank you, Libby. And then we started working on it, and it was the same process as any other stage play that I've done. You work on the script, you find out where the funny bits are, where the really emotional bits are. So that whole process was just like any other doing any other play. The joy of doing scripts like this is finding stuff you didn't know you would feel about that subject because you had no knowledge of it really. And then to take it on stage was extremely humbling to get a reaction from audiences that were so blown away by the fact that this subject was being performed on a stage in such a way with humor. It wasn't, there was no lecture, it wasn't a lecture. And I think that's how you engage people with subjects they know nothing about. It's not to lecture them. That's why the arts are so powerful in motivating people, because they don't even know they're learning stuff. They think people are being entertained while they're learning, which is the best way to learn. So yeah, it was like doing, I mean, I wasn't involved in the writing process of it. So I came in when the hard work of that was done. And then, you know, and like any play, the writing of plays changes as it's being rehearsed as well, because actors bring what they bring to it, the director brings what they bring to it, and the combination of all of these creative minds ends up with the best product at the end of it. So hopefully that's what we did. We got the best play at the end of it. Which doesn't mean to say it won't be better the next time we do it even. Yeah.
That would be nice, eh?
Yeah, no, I think it does have to be done again, because I think the power behind any campaign is numbers of people, and the people who need to swell those numbers are the people who don't know about this already, and that's who we need to get in. That's the power of good theatre. That's the people that you can get in to see it, and then you've got a whole new cohort of people supporting you.
Yeah. Wonderful. So it was a real joy basically I've worked with Mark McNichol before on lots of different things. So we're kind of used to each other working as a team, you know, with him writing and me directing this piece. So that was a lovely creative process in the first place. And then bringing in these two smashing actors was just a joy, you know. I mean, for me to have two actors like Caroline and Rachel every day to look at a good piece of work, and then for it to actually matter to people is just like, you know, you've died and gone to heaven as an actor, you know. You're just like, yeah, this is great fun. So I think it's really important that to make the product the best piece of theatre, standalone theatre that you can come up with is really important. And then with the juice and the, you know, the oil of the wheel, oil in the wheels, the whole passion behind inclusion and enables recommendations was just like the cherry on the cake. So very lovely time, and hey, yeah, let's do it all again. Thank you. We'll just look for that funding source. So the next question, I've got another question here. So this is via Twitter, and it's from Alison. And Alison says to us, I'm gutted I missed it as I don't live close. I'm in Edinburgh. Are there any plans for future performances or a film, perhaps. Katrina, what are CC, what are Creative Change Collective saying to you about that?
My impression is that everybody is really up for trying to take it elsewhere. And the thing was, because we did it, so because we started before COVID and then we went into, we kept the script writing right through COVID. At one point we were talking about doing a film because the theatres were shut and there was no audiences allowed. So we thought our end kind of a point was going to be a film. But then when things started to open back up and we felt like it would really get, it was really important to take it to the stage at that point. We felt like it needed to be seen in person. Then we went back to trying to fund it as a stage play. So the idea of having it as a film was kind of talked about for a bit. I don't know. So I've got no expertise in kind of filmmaking or production or anything like that. So I don't know. I'm told it's a lot more expensive to make a film though. So yeah, it probably all comes down to the funding. We would like, I think all parties involved would definitely be up for trying to see how this goes forward and how it can be seen by more people. But as always, it comes down to money.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it is that thing of, you don't necessarily want, there's if you have the finances to film the stage theatre production, it can be amazing if it's filmed as a piece of theatre. I think we're seeing that these days in the big cinemas when they've filmed, things going on in the big national theatres. But if it's a film of a play, it sometimes ends up neither fish nor fowl, So yeah, so it'd be brilliant to have the backing to make the movie of our piece. But in the meantime, it would be lovely to get back out and hear the footfall of live audience members coming back in. Frank, I've got a question here for you from Elizabeth Wright. She's emailed to say, I'd like to hear from Frank. Do Enable have a current focus campaign or just a selection of broad range campaigns they promote in an ongoing way?
Yeah, well, at Enable, we always have a big campaign that we're putting our energies behind. I think our current big campaign is probably quite a broad one because it's something that we got a commitment from in the 2021 Scottish election that there would be a new law introduced in this Parliament to enshrine the rights of everyone who's a learning disability or autism or neurodiversity in a single piece of legislation. So that's a big part of Enable's campaigning activity just now. And again, when we have a lot of these campaigns that we had obviously included in the main around education, and we have My Own Front Door, which is the right of people with learning disabilities who've been left in institutions. There's been some good documentaries and things about that that have really brought a shocking issue to light, where people with learning disabilities just haven't been given the opportunity to get the care and support they need in their community. So they've just been left stuck in a hospital sometimes for years and years and years and years. So there's these campaigns that we've been running over a number of years. And in some ways, the new campaign, I'm not allowed to say what it is yet because it launches in May, but the new campaign that we'll be launching at our conference in a few months' time will be all about that legislation that the government has promised will be introduced. The government's going to have a consultation in the second half of this year, and hopefully a bill will be brought to Parliament next year that will really have a law on the statute books that says these are the rights people with a learning disability have. That will cover education, it will cover their right to social care, it will cover their right to support into employment, really covering this broad range of issues that affect people with a learning disability. And that's something that we'll be campaigning on this year and probably for the next couple of years. So certainly anyone who's keen to support our charity and the work that we do, we're also talking about funding. If anybody wants to make a donation or set up a standing order or play the Enable Lottery or any of these things to support the campaigns that we have, and likewise sign up and support our campaign when we launch it. But again, we do always have a focus of our campaigns, and I think there's a really big opportunity in the next few years to get a piece of legislation through the Scottish Parliament that will hopefully, as we mentioned, a lot of these things that fall through the cracks, things that we think people have a right to, but do they really? And if we have a body created by this bill, whether it's called a commissioner or whatever it might be called, but a body that exists in legislation that will uphold the rights of everyone with a learning disability and their families, I think that'll be fantastic progress. So yes, anyone who wants to keep backing us, we've been campaigning and fighting ever since the mums and dads that started Enable in the 1950s that I think this play brilliantly captured. Those mums and dads are still in our membership, and new generations of mums and dads are in our membership, and a huge number of people with a learning disability are out there campaigning for themselves and for their own rights. I think it's what makes Enable quite unique. And yeah, anyone who wants to join us, more than welcome. Come to the website and hopefully find the information you need there.
Great stuff. So, bated breath for me then. We've got to find out what this new campaign is at the conference. I attended Enable's AGM last year, and it was so impressive how everyone got involved, you know, at every level. It was just a big group, all with a focus, and it was brilliant how everybody worked together. Yeah, very moving. Very much that atmosphere, you know, Caroline, I think, you know, we kind of, when we had the Q&As, we were kind of ending up kind of going, look, either we're all Jock Tamson's bairns or we're no. You know, there was that kind of sense of, you know, we're all in this together. Come on, guys, we're all human beings together, you know. So good. Power to your elbow, Frank. So we have an email from Susie Mackay. And Susie says to us all, I attended the Greenock show and I'm a lived experience parent. And I wanted to thank all of you attending the show. It was very emotional and also very inspiring. I felt that my situation was being amplified in a way it never has before. No question, really. I just wanted to thank you all. Which is, yeah, just great. And we got a lot of that, didn't we, Caroline?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Don't know if anyone got a chance to read the feedback forms, but I sat down with a cup of coffee and read a whole batch of them, and you know, it's extraordinary because you don't really get that ever in a theatre, how folk felt about the play, you know. So it was very moving. So we now have from John Hamilton via Twitter. Unless you'll like this one, Frank, it starts off straight away saying, what can we do to help? Frank told us how we can help Enable. How can we help the production and also the wider work of Creative Change Collective and James Bothy? John, you know, my first answer to that would be get involved in any way you can. John, you know, either in person or, you know, look up Creative Change Collective website, look up Enable website, look up James Bothy website, and just, you know, get your neb in, stick your neb in and go, hiya, is there anything I can do? You know, it is that lovely thing of kind of stepping up. You know, it takes a lot of commitment, I think, to just kind of stick your hand in there and go kind of contribute. So love that question, John Hamilton. Can I put it to everybody and tell me what you think? It's such a sweet, nice, simple question. John says, what can I do to help? Maybe come to you first, Bernie.
Oh, it depends what kind of help that he's wanting to give. But as you said, just go into the websites and read up all the information there. You know, I don't know what he wants to do. Is it fundraising? Is it to be there? Is it to volunteer? It's whatever, you know, whatever he wants to do.
What you good at, John?
Yeah, what you good at? You're handy.
Yeah, where are your gifts? That's right. Yeah.
And jobs for you doing at the bottom. There's plenty down there to be done.
John, you're going to be sorry you stuck your hand on. Yeah, Caroline, it is quite simple. It's quite a nice, simple question, isn't it? What can I do to help? Says John.
I mean, I think that's been answered. You do what you can do to help, you know, or you find out what's needed and you work out what your skills are to decide which area you're going to help in. But I mean, making tea helps, turning up helps, you know, talking to people about things helps. So, you know, get the information about what you need to talk about, or just find out from them directly what is it that they need you to do that you are able to give.
Yeah.
And the joy of doing that stuff is I volunteered for a long time in a homeless shelter. And the person who ran the homeless shelter used to tell me how grateful they were for my help. And I've always said, do not be grateful to me, because I got so much out of doing that. I got more out of doing it than I was given, I think. And I think that's the joy about getting involved in these kinds of things, is that what you get out of it is phenomenal.
Absolutely.
So it's a win-win situation. So get in touch with them and just ask, what can you do? Because they'll know, I don't know, they'll know exactly what they need, and take it from there.
Wonderful, Caroline. I totally agree with you. You know, I want to say what she said, because the reason I do community arts, the reason I've been involved in this kind of work since I was a teenager, and I won't tell you what age I am now, but it's a long, long time, is because it seems to me that people want a platform. You know, when Creative Change Collective create a platform, you know, like John's responded to right now by saying, how can I contribute? Then, you know, the truth is that it's a win-win situation. You know, I always say to when I'm working with Creative Change Collective clients and we're talking about a story, I always say the story that's out there just now in our movies and our screens is destroy or be destroyed. I mean, that's the story that we're accepting at the moment. And the wonderful thing about this chat is we're looking at a story where it's who's rescuing who. You know, when you actually start to contribute towards your fellow human being, just like you said, Caroline, you're reminded of who you really are. You know, you get a bigger sense of, oh God, this is who I am. So yeah, John, wise man, because it really is a question of giving and receiving end up being the same thing in these scenarios. Frank, you must have seen that loads of times in with Enable, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, it's probably great, you know, for Jean's Bothy coming from Helensburgh, and Helensburgh was one of the first branches of Enable. It was founded, you know, by Jean and Rachel, the two founders, way back in the 1950s. And I think that it's that great history that the charity has, and you know, so many charities all over Scotland have got that great history. It's people in the community just asking exactly that same question John's asked, what can I do to help? And I think that it's that sort of community activism is so important. I'd probably throw in another one as well, and you completely agree with all the points that have been raised, but there's probably another one, is the power that we all have as voters. Yes. And I think, you know, sometimes we can think politicians seem awfully important and awful far away, but you know, they are just ordinary folk. Some are very ordinary, but that's another issue. But you know, they are just ordinary folk. They're not magically more engaged or switched on or informed than the rest of us. You know, they're people that have obviously got a passion for public service. They've stood for election. They've got elected to Parliament, but that doesn't mean they know everything. And you know, if there's an issue that you feel strongly about, absolutely contact your MSP, your MP, your councillor. Tell them this is something that matters to you. Point them towards campaigns. You know, if it's an Enable campaign that you feel strongly about, let them know about it. Let them know you support them. Ask them some questions about it. And it's a really great way of getting politicians engaged. And people should never forget how powerful we are as voters. You know, it really matters. You know, we really can make a difference. We should never feel that we're not engaged, that we're not, you know, paid attention to, that we're ignored. We've got a lot of power as voters, and I think, you know, it's always the worst thing is when people feel like they don't have power. But we do, and we should never forget that, and there's a lot of influence that you can have. So yeah, absolutely agree with everything, but just come along and volunteer and get involved, but never forget the power you've got to influence political change as well.
Yeah, you know, as an artist, it would always frustrate me when people would kind of talk about you know, creativity is about taking folks' minds off how they live. No, absolute opposite. You know, art and politics is the same thing as far as I'm concerned. You know, it's about putting folks' minds back on, reminding them who they actually are. You know, we are literally, you know, creative beings. That's who we are in our essence. You know, so like you say, Frank, there's nothing more creative than getting involved with your actual decision making, voting power. You know, a question on Twitter from Sarah Williams. She says, how much of the script was Mark McNichol and how much was the group themselves? So Katrina, I'm going to come up to you for that.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously Mark has got that experience. He's got the skills as the writer to guide the group. When we first started, we never... we didn't really know where it was going. So we started as kind of weekly sessions where we would start putting some ideas together. And out of that process really built the script. So we didn't know that we were going to end up with even a full script or even go to as far as having a stage play. It was never known that far in advance how far we were going to go. So it was really driven by the members who came along to those sessions and worked with Mark. And then he used his skills and his experience and what he does best to create this stage play. But the experience that our members had I mean, one of our ones who can't be here today, ironically, she can't come today because her child, who has complex needs and isn't currently in education, and she is fighting for him to get into education, and that's the reason why she can't be here today. Was really that kind of experience was vital to be able to bring that authenticity and to really for people to come along and see the stage play and be able to relate to those characters and see themselves in them. It needed that people with their own experience to be able to bring that to the script. So yeah, a short answer is it was a collaboration between everybody that was involved in it, but we wouldn't be able to do it with the expert skills of Mark. So we thank Mark for bringing that to the stage.
Yeah, always great to have a good script. And I go back to what Caroline said earlier on. It's always a collaborative process. That's why we love it so much. You know, it changes. As soon as an actor gets a hold of the character morphs into something. You see more than you thought was there in the first place. And I'm sure, Caroline, you would agree that there was kind of aha moments all along, wasn't it? You were like, oh God, that's why they're doing what they're doing, and so there was that nice kind of thing of layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. So love all that teasing out the details. So yeah, but the intention is just wonderful, isn't it? Just to be able to have got the funding from Argyll and Bute, and then to be able to just kind of set that in motion was wonderful. After all the work that you and Mark had put in, Katrina, Bernie, and the rest of you. So got another question here. I'm going to go back to Jamie. I've got your question, but I'm going to leave that for a bit later. I've got an email from Tom here. Frank mentioned Jean being an actual person who was part of the Enable origin story. Is that the same Jean in the stage play? I attended the Glasgow show and didn't know the character Jean was an actual person. Well, certainly, I mean, Katrina, maybe go back to you and Bernie, but certainly there was inspiration. The name was a nod to that original Jean, yeah. So yeah, I mean, we've not got our writer, our script writer Mark with us, but I know that the Jean's Bothy group had always said that Jean would be in there, but I think the script went through various kind of machinations, Tom. So at one point we were in the 50s with Jean in a version of the script. It was actually set when Jean was alive, but I think it changed, didn't it, Katrina? We changed, there was different versions.
Kind of current day. The Jean that it relates to, so the Jean of Jean's Bothy, who is a real person and was fictionally based, we were very careful not to say that was the person, because we don't know. None of us that were involved in the actual writing knew Jean. However, a lot of people locally did know Jean and spoke very fondly of her, and did say that she was a person, very determined person who was up for a campaign. And some of the feedback at the Helensburgh one had some relations of Rachel, who Sally was based on, and their feedback was that they got the characters very close. So we didn't know that we were, but they said it was close.
There were lovely moments, Caroline. Do you remember when I think it was more than once when two women would say, "That was me and my sister. That was me."
Every single show, and more than one person would say that at every single show. They were so recognisable, and everybody, people would also think that they were the character that they liked the best. But yeah, they absolutely recognised both of those people at every single performance. That was incredible, I thought.
Yeah,
they knew who those people were.
Yeah, and to go back to what Frank said and what John was saying, John Hamilton, who on Twitter, who was sort of saying, "How can I help?" It just shows you, doesn't it, that it doesn't. It is these people, It's the folk that turn up like a bad penny and go, I want something to happen here. I want something to happen here. You've got to agree with me that something needs done. And it's those folk that actually kind of like just keep presenting with a kind of, a call to a better way to be. So, you know, and the Jeans of the world. John, Jean, it's the same name. I don't know if you know that, but John, you were asking what can I do to support the work of Creative Change Collective and Jean's Bothy, you know. I mean, really, you guys, the passion behind what John's asking about and who Jean actually was are the people that make the difference, that wonderful grassroots thing. You know, so I think what Caroline, I'm sure you would agree that what we were hearing back from the audience when people were saying, God, that was just like me and my sister, or me and my neighbour, or me and my sister-in-law, who were fighting for you know, our kids' inclusion. What they were recognising was that human trait, that part of us that won't sit down to injustice, you know, that you know, calls truth, you know, to power, you know, it's in us all, you know. John, I'm so glad you asked that question. You know, we probably all feel it, but what's brilliant about work like this is the platform is then created so that people have got somewhere to put all that passion, get somewhere to actually respond to it, you know. So this is from Norman via Twitter. So a wee bit of time in our hands, guys. So Katrina, Bernie, I'll maybe come to you first, Bernie. How close was the performance to what you had in your imagination as you went through the script building process? I attended the Helensburgh show, really enjoyed it, and also the Q&A afterwards was utterly fascinating. So that's from Norman. Thank you for that lovely endorsement, Norman. So Bernie, when you were conjuring it in your mind's eye during the actual meetings and sessions with Mark, how close was the final product to what you had envisaged?
Oh yeah, even better. You know, really, I mean, I didn't know really what to expect because I, you know, had never been through a process like that. You know, been involved in a play or writing a play, and even having to read a script as well was a bit daunting for me. But then once I got into it, I quite enjoyed it, and really looked forward to every session. But yeah, it's, I mean, the play was more than I expected. Really, a lot more than what I expected.
So you do it all over again then?
Yeah, it was a great experience, you know. It really was a good experience. Yeah.
Yeah, Katrina, did you have pictures in your head of what might actually come to fruition?
Yeah, but like Bernie, it was even better when it happened. And going to a number of the different performances, it was different at each one as well. There was different emotions that came through. I suppose once you've seen it once, then you're starting to, you know what you're kind of seeing, but each performance brought something different, I thought, as well, which I wasn't expecting. But yeah, when you see the actors then take the words off the page and act, it just brings the whole different level to it.
I mean, it was okay me reading a script. That was fine reading the script, but it's when the professionals took over, it was a different ball game. It just, everything came to life. It was brilliant.
That's unique, Caroline. That's unique.
I know. I need to be told that sometimes. I'm like, who are you talking about?
No, it's a lovely combination, isn't it, to have, like, you know, really good strong work with you know, with a lot of passion for the subject matter. It's beautiful. So last week question here, which is from Jamie Simpson, and Jamie Simpson says, "What is everyone up to next?" Well, Jamie, I'll be walking the dog. What is everybody up to now next? Yeah. So what's the, you know, the after this lovely bit of work, what are we all up to next?
Well, I'll just be getting the dinner organised for my husband coming in for work later.
But we know, Bernie, that we can enrol you in the next piece of work. Yeah. We know that you're up for it again. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to think so, but depending what the subject is, I'll see.
And Frank, you've got May coming up with the new campaign, yeah?
Yeah, so again, that's going to be a big focus of our work, and I think, like you said earlier, Libby, I think the strength of drama, the strength of theatre. You know, I could sit here and give you a big speech full of stats, and you'd all quietly fall asleep. But I think it's the way that you get that emotional connection when you have it presented as a play. You know, I think that's hugely beneficial. So, you know, I think there's a lot of scope there for drama. I think exactly like you said, and like we said last year when the play was being presented. I think there's great scope, a great contribution that can make to helping our campaigns to connect with people. So I think that's certainly something we would find quite exciting to look at in the future.
Brilliant, Frank. I'll be expecting a commission any day now. Good. Caroline, we've to catch up for a coffee. That's what we've got to do next. Yeah,
that's right. We do. We absolutely do.
Yeah.
I'm literally, as soon as I finish this, I'm actually going to do a self-tape audition for another theatre show. So wish me luck with that. And then after that, I'm going to spend probably a week putting together an IKEA wardrobe. So that's how I rock and roll.
Brilliant. So Jean's Bothy will go from strength to strength, yeah?
We will, yes. We've got lots of different things happening just now, and I think the main thing is about being open to opportunities. So when when members register with us, they don't necessarily know what they're going to get involved in. They don't know how much they want to get involved in, and there's no pressure to get heavily involved in different things. But what we find is, depending on who gets involved, these things just have the possibility to grow to places where we never expect them to. So yeah, we have lots of different things going in all different directions just now, and I'm just trying to keep track of them all. So yeah, it's all good stuff though. All good stuff.
Well, I shall be carrying on doing some work with Creative Change Collective, as is my want, and looking to Frank for a commission, and meeting up with Caroline Guthrie for a coffee at some point, and working out what job she's up for and why am I not up for it.
There's a reason for that. I'll tell you later.
Looking for a wee ball-faced redhead this time. Well, listen, guys. As usual, just smashing to chat to you all. Bernie, thank you for your great, good generosity of spirit and contribution to everything. Frank, you're a star. Thank goodness for folk like you at the helm of policy with Enable. Power to your elbow. I think I've said that 3 times to you today, Frank. But here we go. Caroline, respect. And Katrina, at some point when I'm down visiting my cousin in Helensburgh, I'll pop in and say hello.
Kettle's always on.
So, guys, if you've enjoyed this little chat today, then please contribute. John, please show up. Get yourself down to Helensburgh. Who was it that was saying earlier on they might come down to Helensburgh?
Jackie. Oh, Jackie. Yeah, we're expecting Jackie.
Jackie, get yourself down to Jean's Bothy, and basically just keep in touch. Everyone subscribe to the Creative Change Collective channel on YouTube. Switch on the updates so you know what's happening. If there's anything happening in your area, check out other projects on the YouTube channel, and all the links to our social media accounts are on the webpage at cc.scot. So, guys, thank you, and I dare say we'll chat again. Thanks very much. Bye then. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Long hours, sore fingers, the melody lingers. First tune, beaming smile, feel the style. Calloused hands, stiff wrist, getting the gist.
like running through honey. First gig, sure.